I'm Larry Dixon, and this is a conversation with First Baptist Church. With me today is our new pastor, Aaron Cole.
Good to be here, Larry. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for you to be here with us. I understand that this coming Sunday is going to be your first Sunday at the pulpit.
That is the plan.
That is the plan. So, being new to the community, I'm sure a lot of the congregation and others would like to know a little bit about you. Find something interesting. So, not from around here, are you?
Yeah, that's correct. Although, it's also kind of a complicated answer. I've lived actually in the Southeast longer than I've lived anywhere else, but never really in the same place. So, the long story is that I was born in Northeast Colorado, and I grew up in Northeast Wyoming, and that's still kind of the place that I think of when I think of home, even though I don't have any family there anymore. But when I was in high school, we moved to Central Alabama, and then I actually graduated from high school in suburban Atlanta. And then I went back to Birmingham for college, and then back to Atlanta for seminary, and then I've been kind of bouncing around. We've lived in the Carolinas, and then in Texas, and now here in Kentucky. So it's been kind of a long journey.
So we get to know you. What's your passion? What's your hobbies outside of church?
Yeah. I think probably my biggest hobby is enjoying stories and really any form, whether it's TV shows, novels, comic books. I'm a bit of a nerd, as most people will discover pretty early on. Even things like board games or role-playing games, just kind of enjoying and collecting stories wherever I can find them. But we also, as a family, love being outside. Our 2-year-old Henley loves the lake. She loves hiking, and so anytime that we can kind of get out and especially here get to explore this new context and enjoy that.
So Morehead is a small community. So what was it, or is it, that intrigued you about Morehead to apply for this position and move to Morehead, Kentucky?
Yeah. I think really one of the first things that intrigued me was that it was a small town. We've come from Dallas, which is the 9th largest city in the country, and it was a really good place for us, but it is also just kind of overwhelmingly large, and Texas as a whole is kind of like that. I've never lived in a state before where you can drive 10 hours and still be in the same state, and that was a little overwhelming. And so the idea of coming to a place that was a little bit smaller, had a little bit more of a kind of relaxed and manageable pace of life, to be honest, was really appealing. But then also here you have, the kind of ethos and the beauty of a small town, but you also have some resources that you wouldn't expect for a place this size, like the university and the hospital and kind of all of the things that come along with that. So yeah, being in a small town, but one that is still kind of really rich in terms of culture and civic life, and has lots of great things for Henley to do. The city park and the kind of attention to quality of life for people of all ages is really beautiful, and kind of all of that together is what attracted us here.
Food's an important part of life, at least for me. So, do you have any favorite food traditions or something that really attracts you? And then there's another part. Is there something you would never eat again?
Yes to all of those. Probably the most important food tradition in our family that we're still working on developing is that we try and sort of use food to mark important days on the liturgical calendar. And obviously everybody kind of does this in their own ways. So you probably have a ham on Easter, or a goose on Thanksgiving, or Christmas, or a turkey on Thanksgiving. But we kind of try and take it a little bit further. And so on important feast days, like on the day that the church traditionally celebrates St. Matthew, for example, we'll have silver dollar pancakes for breakfast because of the tradition that Matthew was a tax collector. Or on the feast of St. Michael, which is in kind of late September, early October, there's an old tradition that you eat a blackberry pie because that was the last day that blackberries would be good to be consumed. And so we try and kind of find these old traditions from the church or from different cultures and integrate them into our family life as we kind of mark the passing of the church year. And then as far as favorite foods, I think my all-time favorite is a really good backyard bacon cheeseburger. It's really hard to beat that in terms of just deliciousness. And there's not a lot of foods that I avoid. I try to keep a really open mind and be as adventurous as I possibly can because I didn't grow up that way. My dad is a pretty picky eater, and so that kind of dictated, we're very kind of meat and potatoes household growing up. But there are a couple of things that are really difficult for me, and it's mostly because of texture. But like cooked greens, like collards or sautéed spinach or anything like that is just, I can't really do it.
Well, how do you feel about fried bologna?
I'm a fan of fried bologna, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Well, faith comes to individuals at various times in their life and in various ways. What brought you to CBF?
To CBF in particular, or to faith in general?
To faith in general.
Faith in general.
Let's make it a broader
Yeah,
question.
absolutely. Well, the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard says that life is lived forwards, but it can only be understood backwards. And so that's how I kind of approach my own sense of faith, is it's a lot of kind of looking back on this journey that I never really could fully anticipate in the moment. But really the biggest thing for me is I was raised in the church. My parents were very faithful to make sure that my little sister and I were basically at church every time the door was open. And so there was never a time that I didn't know that God loved me and wanted me to be a part of God's unfolding plan in the world. And it's difficult because I grew up in this evangelical climate that really stressed, you have to have a strong testimony and a dramatic conversion story. And I always kind of felt left out because I didn't have that. But really, to me, I think there's something really beautiful in my version of the story, which is that there is this kind of lifelong continuity of, there have been little moments along the way of discovery and change and growth, but this kind of lifelong sense that God loves me and wants me has been really reassuring and beautiful as I kind of look back over it.
Well, I want to go back to your family and talk about moving them to Moorhead. I understand that was a difficult trip. So how does your family feel about moving here and a little background on that?
Well, emotionally, we're all really excited to be here. The sort of mechanics of getting here were, as you said, Larry, a little bit difficult. We used one of those pod moving companies, and our pod was delayed for a few days, and there were a couple other minor things along the way that just kind of, they build up, and you have all these little frustrations. But, we were very, very excited to be here. From the first time that we visited back in March, we fell in love with this place and this congregation and all the wonderful things that are going on here. So really, we got back from that trip and we started packing in kind of anticipation of being here. And so we're thrilled to be here. We're tired. It's been a bit of a transition, but our 2-year-old Henley has handled it particularly well. I've been very surprised and very grateful that she has been so flexible and so accommodating. And we've got a few more boxes left to unpack, but we're finally kind of feeling settled in, and the congregation has done a great job at feeding us and taking care of us and making us feel like we really belong here. So it's starting to feel like that's really true.
Of all the biblical characters in the Bible, except for Jesus, of course, who would you spend the day with sharing a fried bologna sandwich and a bag of chips?
Well, first we'd have to make sure that it was beef bologna so that it was kosher, because most of the people in the Bible couldn't eat pork. But my go-to answer for this one is always Thomas, the apostle. He gets a bad rap in church culture. We kind of call him Doubting Thomas, but he's always been somebody who's really special to me. The kind of willingness to ask these hard questions and to be honest about what he needs. The other disciples had the opportunity to see the risen Jesus, and Thomas hadn't, and he was honest about the fact that he would really like to do that too. And so, but at the same time, Thomas is the only person in any of the Gospels to explicitly call Jesus God. When he meets him, he calls him my Lord and my God. And I think there's something really beautiful about that when we're honest about what we need for faith, whether that's an answer to a difficult question, or somebody to sit with us in our doubts, or to, be sarcastic. Thomas can be very sarcastic sometimes. When we're honest about what we need, God meets us there and is able to bring about incredible transformations as a result of that. And so I'd love to hang out with Thomas, and maybe we could work on rehabilitating his image in broader church culture. But.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you would like to share with us that would just dying to get out there and make it known to the world?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of all the things that Leanna would want me to tell you. Some interesting little tidbits about me. Until Leanna forbade it, I was an avid motorcyclist. I've been to the big motorcycle rally at Sturgis a couple of times. In fact, I got a tattoo there once when I was in college. I have a scuba diving license and have been scuba diving. I'm trying to think of all the little random things that are interesting and unexpected. I have I think a healthy sense of adventure, and I'm excited to put that into use here, both in the church and just exploring Eastern Kentucky. And we're just delighted to be here. We're so happy to get to call this place home and to sink into this place and to be with this congregation and see the wonderful things that God is doing here and find out how we can join in. So thanks for having us.
Thank you. This has been a conversation with First Baptist Church. I'm Larry Dixon, and with me today has been Aaron Cole, our new pastor.